All right, good morning. Let's get down to business. Who has questions? I'm curious, and I just want to remind everybody, it doesn't have to be about lesson 3. It can be about something from lesson 1. That doesn't mean you're behind. This is a journey, right? So sometimes when we do something in lesson 3, like we're designing an exercise or a handout, it can bring us clarity to something that we talked about in lesson 1 that maybe wasn't jiving or really wasn't making total sense at the time. So it is actually normal that with business in general, it's kind of like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and then 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Like that's kind of how it goes. There's always a give and take there. So please know it can be about anything. It can be about anything at all. Do not ever think that like you're making the whole group go backwards because you're asking a question from like a previous lesson. That's not how this works. It's all a journey. So Serenity, you are up first, my dear. Good morning.
Okay, so going backwards a little bit.
That's good. Okay, good.
For the question, for the Q&A, do you call them or do they call you?
Great question. I always like to make the call.
You always call.
Always,
okay.
Yes.
What happens if they don't answer?
Yep, I leave a message and then sometimes they call back, and that like of course sometimes happens, but it's usually pretty rare because it's a scheduled appointment, right?
Okay.
So you would either leave a message, and if they call you back, they call you back, right? Like you just pick up the phone, and you're not gonna be like, no, I'm sorry, I need to call you back. Like that's not what you would do, but like I like to make the call because I feel like I can take control of the call right away. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I always hesitate when I'm in this module, you guys, I'll be honest, like to say I'm in control, because you're not actually really ever in total control. Really the right phrase, and I keep trying to remind myself to use the right phrase, is you are taking the lead of that call right away, right? So when you're calling somebody, think about it like they'll answer and they'll say hello, and sometimes they'll say, hi, this is Jasmine, or they'll say their name, and immediately you can go into, hey, Jasmine, this is Kelsa with Physical Fitness. I had us down for a 20-minute call right now. Is now still a good time for you? So I've just set the expectation. I've taken control. I've asked a specific question, so they're going to answer. They're probably going to say, hey, and I'll say, great, let's dive in then, right? So versus if they call and I say, thank you for calling Physical Fitness. This is Kelsa. How can I help you? And they're like, hey, this is Jasmine. I had us down right now, or I missed your call. I now have to rebound, which is okay. You get really good at it after a while of like, great, thanks for calling me back so quickly. I know we only have 20 minutes, so I want to make sure we dive in, right?
Right. Okay.
So you can still rebound. It's just harder because if they, like what could happen is, they say, oh, I missed your call, so I wanted to call you back, and what I had questions about was blah, 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 and they start going, right? Mm-hmm. And so you have to be like, okay, just a second, let's just stop for just a second, let me regroup a minute here, or whatever. Does that make sense? So it's kind of like you got to regain control sometimes so you can take
Okay. Yeah, and then one more is if they do take payment over the phone, do you read them the terms and conditions, or do you just give them the very brief sum of it?
I just give the very brief summary of it. So like, I do not read the whole thing or anything like that. I will usually say, like, if you go on the website, so let me show you this really quickly. Let me pull up the landing page. One moment, please.
Because I totally like fudged when Katie's like, oh, what are the terms and conditions? I was like, you'll find that in my email.
Yeah. So usually what I'll do is I'll say, just so you know, there are some sort of an agreement for this recession. I'm going to read the main ones to you, and that's the ones that I'm like having them check. Does that make sense? You get that screenshot, right? Of like, there's prep work 48 hours beforehand. I've given myself plenty of time to complete the prep work, and then no refunds and no cancellations. And I will usually say those, and so they can check those. I can check those boxes. Those are the main points. And then I'll say, there are more, just a few more like general waivers that you are agreeing to. And if you want to check out those ones, then, and let me show you this really quickly. So this is the website for Eureka's on our website. Okay, this is the landing page. Mm-hmm. So if I scroll all the way down to the bottom, there is read the Eureka Sessions Agreement of Understanding. And this is like its own just site. Like its own page. And the only way to get to this page, it's not up here in my menu bar anywhere. The only way to get to it is by clicking right here. So when I'm on the phone with them, I'll say, if you have any questions or if you want to read through all that legalese, then go to the website, and at the bottom under the pink button, there's a link to read through them if you're interested. Most people are like, yeah, I don't care. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So and then they're just typed in right there.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So maybe just also fit into my conversation that, these are your decisions that I help navigate you through type thing. So that way they already know it's not me telling them what to do. It's me giving them suggestions and options.
Yeah. And if you wanted to, like I hadn't thought about this before, but you easily could, is just kind of in your confirmation email, just say, here's the, I don't love terms and conditions. Like here's what to expect, or here's more about, I don't know a good word for it right now. I'm drawing a blank. So just for right now, let's say terms and conditions for this session, and you could hyperlink to it someplace if you wanted to. That way you're providing them with it. But I would probably put it towards the bottom. I wouldn't like break up the flow of the confirmation email to put it in there. But I think you could like, just a reminder, here's the terms and conditions for this session, or here's our agreement for this session is probably a better way of saying it. Does that make sense?
So you put that in the confirmation to the Q&A call or the confirmation to the Eureka?
I would do it to the Eureka. So like they've scheduled the Eureka and you've said something about like, you agree to blah, blah, blah. You're making those main points, which is what's already on your agreement. There's just a couple of other like legal, like the, standard waiver and release kind of documentation, but I wouldn't read that anyway. It's terrible. It's total legal speak, right?
Right.
And so but you could link to it in the Eureka and say, just a reminder, here's the, our agreement for this session kind of thing.
Yeah. That way they have a chance to look at it if they want to look at it rather than, didn't get to see it in the payment. Okay.
Yeah. I would say, you guys, like after a while, I would say the majority, and I don't know, we don't track this, but I'm willing to bet it's probably either 60-40 or 70-30 with the higher number book right online. Like they're literally just booking the session themselves. So a small portion of people will schedule right during the Q&A call. They're really all for it. But a lot of the times it's like they're either driving or they're at work. They need to look at their calendar. They need to talk to a spouse. They need to like coordinate schedules. And they can't necessarily like schedule it right then. Like I said, maybe a third of them can, but the majority of people are doing it online. So that's why it's like it's there online. So it's not that big of a deal.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Great questions. Bobby, you're up next.
Yeah, my question is, I have set up my mic and my lighting, and want to know how you guys, what are you guys hearing and seeing from your point of view? Can you hear me clearly? Is the lighting seems to be sufficient enough, or do I need more lighting from where I am?
Sorry, I didn't really think you guys wanted to hear me blow my nose. Okay. So it was my professional courtesy for the morning. Okay. I think, so do you have a light on one side of your face, or is it?
Yeah, I do.
I feel like, so when I'm looking at you right now, this side of your face, I can see better than the other side. Overall, Bobby, it looks much better than it did before. So I think it's totally fine. If you can center the light maybe just a little bit more centered, it might highlight your face a bit more.
Okay.
Does that make sense? I don't know if that's possible.
Yes.
And if it's just not possible based on size or space or floor plan, then it looks really good. And your audio sounds fine to me. It sounds very crisp. It does not sound like yelling. It actually looks like you're a little further away from your computer, and yet I can still hear you very well. Like what a lot of people do, and I know I'm the same way, I have the tendency to like lean in as if I need to. Like I have a very good mic. I do not need to do that, and yet I feel sometimes as if I need to. It looks as if you're like sitting up straight, you're very composed, look very natural, and I can hear you very well.
Okay, great then.
Anybody else want to give Bobby some feedback? What do you guys think?
I think actually it looks great. I thought you looked really clear, and I thought it was wonderful just the way it is. But I'm not quite. I know what Kels is talking about, but I actually immediately when I saw you, I said, "Wow, this is really good."
Yeah, it's so. Thank you for saying that, because it's like any client, anybody else would not have noticed what I noticed. I don't think. I'm just so used to it now.
Right.
But
Right.
and I agree with Jonah. It does look so much better. And it might be actually, do you have a ceiling light on right now?
I do, but it's not I have a low wattage bulb in there. There are, high wattage bulbs that can give me more light.
No, do me a favor, turn it off for a second. I want to see what it looks like off.
That looks fine.
I actually think this looks better. Is it too dark
really?
to work though? Is it too dark to work or no?
No, it's not, no. I'm fine.
Bobby, I actually think that this looks a little bit better in the sense of like the lighting that it was actually the lighting from the ceiling hitting your head.
Okay.
It was like hitting you right here, so there was like a shine right here.
Well, that's where it is. Yeah, from over here.
Okay,
right,
that's
right.
what it was, and I actually think it looks more natural right now than it did with the light. I turn the light back on again.
Yeah, I can see that right here.
Right there, and it almost looks now. It looks darker on your other side of your face with that light on compared to with it off. With it off,
Okay.
I feel like it's the lighting right in front of you that you must have added. Looks
Right.
very balanced, but when you turn
Okay.
that ceiling light on, it actually makes it look as if one side of that's it. There you go.
Okay.
And I can see his eyes much clearer with the ceiling light off.
Oh, you
I
can?
totally agree
Okay.
with you, Jacqueline.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
whole face is more clear with that light off.
Well, I have these computer glasses also on. One with the little blue tint to them.
Yeah, do you notice a difference?
A huge difference.
Isn't that
Huge
crazy?
difference.
I do too. I'm gonna put mine on right now, actually, now that I think about
Yeah,
it.
it just my eyes are less tired when I'm here for several hours.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we're all putting it on. I know, it's like this is the only one thing I'm doing on the computer today. So I was like, oh, it's an hour. I don't have to put it on, but it is still good just to let your eyes rest a little bit more. I totally
Yeah.
agree. And what's funny? Did you guys notice how his skin tone changed almost colors with the ceiling light on compared to off?
Wow. Okay.
I think it looks a lot better like this. And now whenever you get around to it, or if you've got a picture, like I always joke, like go take something from like your bathroom wall and hang it behind you now, Bobby.
Yeah.
You need something on the
Yeah.
wall behind you and you'll be like perfecto.
Yeah. This is my grandkids' bedroom, so I have to get permission to
Yes.
make it.
And this is where I think, this can be something that's like kid friendly. Like if it's, obviously let this fit into your life. Don't let your business and your office take over that room. That's not what we're going for. You can probably find something that's fun and kid friendly, but also has like a little bit of a, business type air to it. If you have, I think Nick Elkins, if you guys know him and I were talking about this, he's got, a wall behind him and it's like the staircase going up to like his upstairs or something. And I was like, I told him, his new podcast is going to be about fatherhood and finances. And he's got, very family oriented kind of guy.
Mhm.
I told him, I said, I think you should just frame artwork from your kids. And that's what should be behind you. Right.
Yeah.
Like to me, that is so cool and it's on brand. It's part of your jam. Like, I just think that like, this does not have to be, don't go buy anything. Your kids, trust me, your kids come home with enough stuff. Like just buy some cheap frames from IKEA or something and stick your artwork from your kids. And that's what I suggested he put behind him because one, it's like in a space in his house where like, it's up in a part, it's not like a door, there's no door to like shut it. It's not, it's like in a open space. So you could definitely do something like that, Bobby, where you get some cool artwork that's like very kid friendly and
Okay.
put it behind you.
Thanks.
Yeah. Good question. All right. Any other questions, Bobby?
I'm good.
Okay, you can raise your hand again if you've got another one. Okay.
Okay.
Jacqueline, I see lots of questions. I love it. Okay, Jacqueline.
Hi. First of all, I love your earrings. My friend just got a pair like that and I'm obsessed and I need some.
I've had these, like probably the earrings I've had the longest, like 10 years. And without one, I have not lost. And you know what? They're kind of bent. Do you see how they kind of have that weird shape?
Yeah.
I keep looking for another pair to like replace these. And I can't find a pair that like are similar enough that I like. So keep your eye out.
Oh, yeah. Well, we got them. My friend got them from like a local art museum is where she found them.
I got these from just like, and these were cheap. They were like $17 or something. Like they're not anything expensive, but I did get them from like a little boutique type store. So that's you can't find them at like a Target or something. And maybe maybe
I will keep my eyes open for you and me. I'll get us both a pair if I find them.
Thank you. I will Venmo you some money if you do.
No. Okay. So I I'm going back to like the lesson 1 stuff right now. I'm like way behind, but
Okay.
my schedule's finally clearing up. And I always have trouble with the super problems, like coming up with the opposite problem. Can you like, so like if one of my problems is like my clients, they can't see their money clearly, just like you say, and it's causing all kinds of issues. And another problem is like they need a budget. You know what I mean? Like things like that. They want a plan. What would be like the opposite of that? That's what I always had trouble with, like the opposite side of the coin.
So I completely agree. It's so funny because I have found that in the academy, there is something about that exercise that is very polarizing for people. Okay. So we have some people that in the feedback form say that was the best exercise. They loved doing the opposite side of the coin. Like it was so eye-opening for them, all of that. And that is actually Michael's response. He says the same thing about that exercise. Like he loves that mind mapping. Yeah. I'm like you, where I'm like, I don't understand. My brain doesn't work that way to do the opposite side, or I don't understand why that's relevant. So It's so funny because there must be something. And that's why sometimes when we do when we're providing exercise in the academy and there's, 3 ways that you can identify your ideal client, it's because not every way will be perfect for every single person in the way they think. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's one of those exercises that we talk about a lot about, like, is there a way that we could be explaining this better? But what we've determined is that it's really just about the student and how they are relating to that is most relevant. And some people just like it and some people don't. So what I will tell you, tell me what the problem was that you were saying that you need the opposite of, because I can come up with the opposite, but it's like, I don't really know why I need to do it. So you just go ahead.
And well, kind of like a follow-up question could be too, like, can I just list 10 problems that I see people having and do that instead and rank them?
You can totally do that instead. Okay. So, and I think part of it is like coming up with 10 problems is hard for some people too. And so when they have to think about, well, here's a problem I know about, what would be another problem, but sort of on the other end of the spectrum, that is easier for some people to figure out. Where for me, I'm like, oh, I can tell you 10 problems really quickly, and I don't know if they're related or not related or opposite side of the coin.
Right.
But this is where, okay, so think about it this way. A person has no plan, no awareness, no budget, whatever. They have no idea where their money is going. The opposite of that is a person who tracks every single dollar and is obsessed and is spending tons of time, and it's causing problems in their relationship because they're hyper-focused.
Oh my gosh, I never even thought of that. And I actually helped, like one of my initial sessions, I met with an accountant and her spreadsheet gave me a headache. Like I was like, sister.
Well, and I think about your why story, Jacqueline. Like, think about your dad, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I do think in some sense that like it can be, it's mind mapping is really, it's kind of a way of like expanding your mind a little bit as far as like considering all opportunities, which is why we've decided to like keep it in there as is, because some people can naturally do it. And it is helpful once you kind of figure it out, but it is also challenging to think through it that way. I promise you that, like, again, we get 2 opposite ends of the feedback on that exercise. And so we talk about it a lot because of that. And we just have decided to like keep it in because of all the people who really gravitate to it. So if you can think about the opposite end, what I think that does, one of the benefits of that is it helps you to kind of narrow down your ideal client a little bit of like, well, who I help specifically is a person experiencing this, but not experiencing this. So that's one benefit. Or maybe I can actually help both. And now I know in my marketing, I need to communicate that a little differently. The other thing that it does, I think, is for me personally, I think we're always going for strategies and tips and coaching that is very balanced. We always want to create, I want to be a very well-rounded coach. I want to be a well-rounded parent. I want to be a well-rounded like consumer and money person and all of that. And so we are always trying to encourage that with our clients too. And so by seeing the 2 ends of the spectrum, what it can help you do as a coach is like, what is my balanced view on this? And when I'm telling the person who has no plan and has no idea where their money is going, I'm going to say, I don't want you to go to the opposite end where you're hyper-focused and you need to know where every single dollar goes. That's not what I want for you. That's overcorrecting.
Right. Yeah.
Does that make sense? And so it helps you to know, because sometimes the opposite is the person's fear of why they don't want to make changes, because they're afraid that they're going to overcorrect and go to that extreme, or that's what the solution has to be, a total overcorrection. So by having the opposite ends, I think it can help perspective wise for the coach of like, where do I fall on this spectrum in my coaching, and like, and what my philosophy is, I should say.
Okay. So what would you say about the opposite end of like someone who feels like they can't stick to a budget?
So somebody who says they can't stick to a budget would be like the hyper saver, which is they can't do anything unless it's planned. And so imagine a person that's like, everything has to be planned out to a T and it has to be perfect. And then a whammy happens and maybe they shut down or they freak out, or like, you know, I had one of these clients actually, it was years ago. He had in his checking account $24,000. Okay. Single guy, younger guy, very, very low expenses. I want to say his expenses were like $1,500 a month. Okay. So in his checking account was mid-20s, which is, and then it was like, you know, and then he would ask me questions like, can I buy this shirt? And I'm like, it was like a $21 shirt. And I'm like, you have 20. And the answer isn't that you have 24,000, so buy whatever you want. But it's like, there was a huge block of like, he could not buy anything. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So to me, that would be like the other extreme, which is like a hoarder of money for fear of like never having enough.
Okay.
And saving every dollar and not like ever enjoying your money. He literally did not enjoy his money at all. Like he worked and he saved his money. He did nothing. He had no hobbies. And it was all because like he just really felt as if he did not have a balanced approach there of like, what could he buy himself? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good question. Joan.
Okay, I've got the technical questions, technology questions, because I'm still struggling in that area, but
that's okay. I'm proud of you for moving forward and while you're struggling. I think that that's very powerful.
I am. So with Acuity at this point, I think that almost that I did get Stripe. I connected it to Acuity.
Good.
So we're good in that regard. And I tested it, and I actually the questionnaire is fine, but the budget. I mean, I connected it from Google Docs. Was there somewhere else I should have connected it from? Because it doesn't seem to be really working well.
Just a second. I'm going to shut my office window because the garbage truck is coming around and it's very loud. Just 1 second. It was so beautiful this morning. We had all our windows open in our house, but it's time to change that. Sorry. Okay. So
I have a Google Drive. So yeah.
Yes. So the question of the day, we get this question so often. So I'm going to pull up Thinkific really fast because I'm going to show you where it's at. Okay. There's a specific step you need to take when you are attaching a worksheet like Excel or Google Sheets or whatever. There's a specific way that you need to link to it inside of Acuity.
Oh,
okay. So it's probably the question we get most often. So we, try to make it as obvious as possible so that it was as helpful as possible. But I understand too that like there's just so much in these areas. But let me find it really fast just so you know.
Okay. Yeah, because I'll review it if you let me know where it is.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. I'm just wanting to pull it up. Oh, and let me let me do a student preview because I have it with the way it looks as an admin, and that's not what's going to look like for you. So just let me reopen it. Just 1 second.
Yeah. And I'm just so excited that I did the rest of it. So.
I'm so impressed. Yeah. So let me show you really quickly here. Okay. Okay. So under the pre-discovery session, there is this little thing that says adding your Excel or Google Sheet to the Acuity email confirmation.
Oh, okay.
And if you click on that, it says like approach number 1, Google Sheets. There's a specific way, so when you have it, you actually, click on the green share button and you get the link, right? Mm-hmm. But then what happens is you don't actually want a person to edit that document because that document is being sent to multiple people. Right. So there's a spot in the link that says hyperlink edit. And you're going to remove that and you're going to put hyperlink copy. And this says it right here. So delete everything after edit replace it with the word copy. So
Got
then
it.
what happens when they click on it, in order to open it, it makes them make a copy of it first, and then they are going to edit that, but they're not editing your template, but they're editing their own. And then in your email, that's why you need to make sure that your email says, now share yours back with me.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much. And
You're
then the
very
next,
welcome.
thanks. Then the next stupid question is
Not
how
none
do
of
I-
these are stupid. None of these are stupid, Joan.
Okay, so
Great.
well,
Literally, that is the question we get from almost everybody.
oh, good. I
So
feel
I
better.
can prove to you it's not stupid because everyone asks it. Okay.
I feel so much better because the rest of it is all set up. So now I don't have a website. I've got the Acuity. How do I get the Acuity information to people so that they know how to schedule? I mean,
Yes. Okay. So when you are, and this is where when you're first starting, like at some point, well, Joan, you kind of have a website, don't you? You shared your website. No, you
that
don't.
wasn't me.
Okay.
That was Kim who shared it.
Okay. I couldn't remember who. I thought somebody.
No, I don't
okay.
have a website yet.
Yeah, and you don't need one yet. So I don't want to say that and anyone think, well, wait, I gotta go get it. No, chill out on the website thing. If you think technology is hard at this point, you can tinker with a website forever and ever and ever. Okay. And we do not want coaches. I swear to God, what happened early, we used to teach like marketing right away. And what happened was everybody would spend weeks and weeks and weeks updating their website and making their website perfect, but then they wouldn't have a session to even they didn't have a session to get people to book. So it was like, this is more important, I promise. Okay. So when you go to your Acuity, and I'm going to share my screen again with you.
Okay. Because once I do this, I'm going to book my beta client. I'm excited.
Yeah. Okay. So notice, here's your appointment type. So on the left-hand side, there was a button that said appointment types. Okay. And when you're in here, let's say, so Jill has a virtual introduction for 60 minutes. So this is like if she's meeting with a referral partner and they're meeting virtually. Okay. Don't worry. You guys don't need to have this one yet. Do you see on the right-hand side, it says direct scheduling link?
Yes.
So if you click on that, it gives you the direct link so you can copy it. You can also share it on Instagram. So what you would do is you would just copy the link, and in an email, you're going to type to a person like your beta client and say, hey, I'm really excited to get started with you. Click here to pick the day and time that works best for you and get scheduled. And then you just put the link in there.
Fantastic.
So
Fantastic.
and then what happens, so if I show you this, I can click on this. It will show you, do you guys see, did it open it up or I don't know if I have the
Yeah, I did.
Okay. Yep. So it will literally send them only the link to schedule that appointment. None of your other appointments are showing. So the same thing will happen when you have a Q&A session. So here's the Q&A session. So if we want to send this to a person, or when we're linking on our website, they are literally getting just a Q&A session link. They're not getting a Eureka session, so they don't know the price yet. They're not getting a 1 hour commitment, session, nothing like that. They're literally just getting the link to schedule a Q&A session.
Fantastic. I'm excited. I'm going to have it. I'm going to have it by next time that we talk.
You are, and you're going to send it to your people and they're going to schedule with you. I am so excited. And you can do the same thing for your discovery session. So there's a spot next to your discovery session that says direct link. You can send that to somebody. And so let's say you do a Q&A call with somebody and they're like, I really want to schedule. I just can't do it right now. I'm driving or whatever. Say, no problem. I will send you the link directly. That way, all you have to do is click on it and it'll be super fast and easy. Okay.
Great.
Now, granted, we link to it on our website. I could tell a client, go on the website, click on this page. That's extra steps for them when we have this link. So what we'll say is we're going to send you the link directly. So we will email them very quickly. Great conversation. So excited to dive into your challenge of figuring out where all your money's going, right? Or whatever it is that we just talked about in the Q&A session. Click here to pick the day and time that works best for you for your Eureka session. You provide the link, they go to it, it's all done.
Great. Thank you. I'm so excited.
You're welcome. See, isn't it great when you can see it all come together? I love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. The other thing, you guys, I was talking about with Garrett. You guys know Garrett Philbin. He's amazing. So he's one of the good people. There's lots of good people, but he's one of the really good people. So he and I were talking about technology, and The thing with technology is we don't need it right away, is what it feels like. But what will happen is the pain of not having it will begin to trump the pain of like setting it all up and how much work that takes, right? And so you could go that route. You could go that route and say, I'm just going to like figure this out as I go along. And at some point I'll be so bogged down by doing things manually. That's when I'm going to add some technology in. But what I believe happens is that when it comes to Acuity and like Jotform, so there are a couple of technologies that I just believe, I promise you the pain will be very, very quick. Like you will get to a point very quickly where you find you are emailing back and forth with people about scheduling. You're saying, well, what about this day? And they're like, no, I can't do that day. What about this day? And like almost instantly as a coach, it will bog you down. And so I'm saying, even though you're not feeling the pain of that yet, trust me that it happens very quickly as a new coach. So for Acuity, while it's like, wow, this is a lot of work and we haven't even like felt the pain of not doing it yet, just trust me that the pain would be there very quickly. And that's why we're having you do it early. Does that make sense? But then there's other things where it's like the website and even like Active Campaign. Active Campaign is one of those things where I'm like, you can go a very, very long time without worrying and feeling any pain at all from not having something as robust as Active Campaign. It is not necessary for a very long time. So we try to like pick and choose based on our own journey, like what things we wish we would have done earlier without feeling the pain, you know what I mean? And so that's why we teach it that way. So this is going to make your life so much easier, Joan. I promise. It's going to be amazing.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited. I mean, this is the last step because all the other things that you had told us to do, I figured it out. I mean, I'm so excited. I mean, I've linked things. It's awesome.
Yes. And don't you feel, Joan, like already I am seeing like this air about you that is like amazing to see. Just this, it feels to me like you now trust yourself that if you have to figure something else out in your business, you can figure it out. Not that it's fun and not that it's always easy. And there are times where I'm like cursing at my computer because I can't figure something out, right? But I believe that already you have a very different perspective on this than you did even a few weeks ago.
Oh, I was tearing my hair out a few weeks ago. I was so overwhelmed and I was, anxious kind of, and that's not my personality. So I was really like, I'm frustrated. But
any advice for other people, Joan, because you were experiencing that, like you took one step forward, but like, what would you say to somebody who's like, I'll never be good at this, or I'm bad at technology and I don't know how to do any of this? Like, what would you say to them right now?
Just number one, play with it. Number two, as Jacqueline said to me, the help desk is your friend. I was on the phone for the Google Suite stuff with them and they walked me through everything and that helped enormously as well. But, just basically try it. And those few little questions that get in the way, like the ones I just asked you, just put them out there because once you get past those little points, it starts becoming more comfortable.
Yes. I love it. It really does. I promise it's so hard at first. It's so annoying at first. I wish I could somehow, it's like your kids, you want to take the pain away from them so they don't experience the lesson the hard way. But sometimes it's like part of the journey. And a little bit of technology is just part of the journey for sure. So I'm super proud of you, Joan. Good job.
You. And Kelsey, I wanted to add to that. You're talking about like the pain of having to go back and forth with a client or something like that. And there's like, so you could do that yourself, or there's the financial pressure to put on your business to hire someone to do all of that for you, the scheduling. If you can just figure Acuity out, then it makes that so much better. You don't have to pay someone to do it for you.
100% agree with that. Yeah.
I work with, all the like referral partners I have at this point, they all have an assistant to do all their scheduling. Like as soon as they're like, let's book an appointment, they're sending me to a person. I'm like, oh, here's my calendar. Like I'm not paying anybody for this. So.
Well, and not only that, but like, we have an assistant and she's full time. And yet even then, like, is that the best use of her time? No, like if we can automate that process, that's, I think it's lesson one or two, the recommended reading list is like 4-hour work week, all of that. And like, the idea is because what can you delegate or automate as quickly as possible? And like, if you can automate something, don't delegate it because you don't need a human doing something that a software can do for you. Even from Sherry's perspective, she sends out the links. So if we need to get client schedules, she's sending them the link. She's not going back and forth. there are always times, especially when you have as many clients as we have, that like she's got to get on the phone and like, hey, I got to get you scheduled. What day works for you? And there's that give and take. But it's like the exception. It's not the norm. Does that make sense? Because man, we're busy. There's other stuff I need her doing for us than like chasing clients down to like get them scheduled. Right. So great point. Thank you, Jacqueline. All right. We're going to do, I think it's showing us Serenity first, then Jacqueline. I hope that's okay. Is that okay? All right. I didn't know if it showed up properly. Okay. Serenity.
So I was wondering also like about our backgrounds and stuff. You know, you've got a really nice setting and everything. How relevant do you think that is as far as clients go early on?
I think it's all about your attitude towards it. So like if you make a big deal out of something, and this is general across the board for about everything, if you make a big deal out of something, they will. If you laugh it off, just call it out, elephant in the room, whatever, they won't care. Okay. So like, are you concerned about yours, Serenity?
Kind of like I've got a box here. So
yeah.
About maybe getting a smaller table so I don't feel so like trapped, and then maybe putting something on the wall and shifting it so it's not the door. But
yeah, and this is where you could, so, and I'm not a very witty person. Michael might be able to help you better with this. He's very witty. He's great at dad jokes. He was great at dad jokes before he became a dad, just so you know. Okay. And I would almost say something like, this is the door that I can run through if something happens, or like make a joke about it. You know what I mean? So, but it has to be like silly enough that it's funny, and just call it out. And then that way, if it's not a big deal to you and you can poke fun at it, it won't be a big deal to anybody else, if you ask me. Does that make sense? And again, I'm not very witty, so you'll have to.
Well, maybe in Colorado, it could be like something like, office space is too expensive, so I decided to use my closet instead.
Yeah, right. So is it really a closet? Are you in a closet? Because it's not look like a closet.
I'm in a walk-in closet that doesn't have anything like in it. So I'm literally in a box.
Okay, go a little slower. I want to see this. I want to see the whole thing. Go a little slower, please, because it's shaken up a little bit. Oh, I think you might be frozen now. Shoot.
Oh, no. Here we go. Got it?
No, it was like frozen. The more you're moving, the more frozen it is. Darn. Because I wanted to see if I could help you like reposition or whatever. Try one more time really quickly, and if it doesn't work, I'll have you do something else.
So the door.
Oh, okay.
Wall. Stuff.
Okay.
Wall.
And are you, okay, and you're sitting, so I do think, because it looks like it might be just slightly longer than it is wider. Is that true? Like just slightly like?
Yes. Yeah,
like to your right and left right now, it's a little bit longer than it is wider from your front to your back right now. Mm-hmm. I would say if you can, I would position it so that you're, it's almost like if you just had a bit more space behind you, it definitely would be more open looking. I don't think it's a big deal. I want to make sure I'm very clear about this. Is not a big deal. Like if you've got other things to worry about, don't worry about this. But right. I do think if it's longer this way, I would put your desk at one end of that. That way what's behind you is a bit more open. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
And then you could, at some point, and again, not urgent. If you guys would have seen, my very first office was like the size of Serenity's. And I loved that thing. The only thing I was very lucky is it had a window. So I was all excited because I could like see outside, and outside the window was like this really cute courtyard area. So I had like the end of the building, but it was a very small office. So the idea is, and I got like colored file cabinets. I think at the time I spray painted my file cabinets. I think that's what I did. So, and I had cute desk accessories. So again, like making sure that what's behind you, because what's behind you is going to be storage for you, right? It's going to be files, or it's going to be office stuff, right? Like you don't have room to hide that behind you. Like I do. Like what I have behind me is really cute, but if you were to look to the side, like it's all file cabinets and stuff, right? So, but I don't need to have that on it. But what will be behind you is like office stuff. So just try to make it look as cute as possible. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I can clear all this out too. So I'm thinking of just getting a smaller, like long table and just having that short version of the table to hold my to hold my computer,
Right.
and have room for paper, and that's really it.
Yeah, and even if you had, yeah, I think that that's great. And I will say the only reason I'm even suggesting it is because when we're first starting out, anything that can boost our confidence a little bit and make us feel really like proud of like what we're like exuding to the client in that moment, it just helps, right?
Yeah.
So, and if it's as simple as like just moving the furniture around a little bit, we don't even need to spend money to do it. Then if we can boost your confidence even a little bit, so you're just one less thing to worry about, I say go for it.
Okay.
You know, not because you have to, but just because it might help a little bit.
Right.
Cool. Any other questions, Serenity?
No, I'm good.
All right, Jacqueline. Jacqueline. I don't know why I say it that way. I'm sorry. I'm so from the Midwest.
No, I actually like Jacqueline.
Oh,
Even
okay, good. Okay, good.
my name's not spelled. It's just like Jacqueline.
Okay.
Okay, so I have two questions. So somebody needs to interrupt me. My first one is, how do you personally, like you, Kelsa, stay connected to your like your why story or like your vision?
Great question. My why story has not changed over the years at all, which is good. You know, that way it's like why I do this has really stayed the same. So I think telling the story helps. And telling it in a way, and I think I talked about this on the lesson, but like, you know, you can tell it so much that you start to become numb to it. And that was happening to me for a little while. And I had Karen Dietz on the video, the storytelling expert. She said, you know, when you are in that moment, I really want you to embody those moments all over again. Like go back as if you're right there again. And that has helped so much for me to remember how impactful money was for my mom, right? Like how much of a negative impact it had on her life and how things could have been so much easier. She could have been so much happier had, you know, money been a tool at that time instead. And so that is like, I think about that and I think about how many of my clients, and if you like, sometimes I take like a client that I know really well today that I like adore, and I think about them sitting at their dining room table, maybe like in tears or crying themselves to sleep at night because they're so stressed about student loans or whatever. And like, it truly breaks my heart. I mean, truly, truly breaks my heart.
Yeah.
And so thinking about that, it's like, all right, go get to work, Kelsa. Like you got to get, you know, like we got to fix this. We got to solve this massive problem in our world. Right. And that's just my approach, is like I go into action mode a little bit. But the other thing that I will say is to ask yourself, like, when things are tough or when you've got an idea or you have like you're maybe making a shift in your business or something like that, bringing it back and saying, does this support my bigger purpose with my business? Right? Because not only in the academy, and we were talking like in lesson 1 about how it's really important that you guys don't get distracted by what someone else in the academy is doing. It's important that like 5 years from now, you're not getting distracted by what other coaches are doing, right? Whether it's a business coach, a life coach, or other financial coaches, that distraction never goes away. So like, even for me, I can see another coach doing something like, ooh, should I be doing that too? And I always have to bring it back. Like, does that support my bigger vision and the bigger purpose that I have for my business? And sometimes it's like, I really want to do that, but if I'm honest with myself, it doesn't. And it doesn't mean it's a bad idea. It doesn't mean that I will never do it. It just means that there's other things I need to be spending my time on that truly support the vision for the business, right?
Okay. Yep.
The other thing is we're going to get into, I think this is in the very last module, we talk about goal planning and planning for your business and vision setting and all of that, like on an annual basis. Michael and I do this exercise annually. There's a very specific exercise that we do in our business, and it takes us like a week actually to do the entire thing. There's 2 of us and we kind of go in separate ways and we come back. So it's not like a week straight. That's the only thing we're working on. But, and during the symposium, so you guys know the symposium is 2 days. It's in May. It's on May 1st and 2nd this coming year. It's 2 days of training for financial coaches here in the Phoenix area. And if you guys want more information about that, I can post a link to it. But in the day before, so on April 30th this year, and we did it last year too, it's we call it like the VIP day or the roadmap to profitability day. And it's for 6 to 8 coaches only. So it's a completely add-on kind of day. But what we do on that day is we actually do the annual goal planning with the coaches. So we actually take the process that Michael and I do every single year, and we do it on that day with them. So they leave there with like exactly the vision for the next year, what they're going to accomplish, all the tasks laid out and mapped out from start to finish and all of that, which is exactly what we do every single year. Because the reality is that we have a lot of things we want to do, but we just can't do them all, right? So what that does is it helps us, one, figure out like, what's this next year going to be about for us? Is it a growth year? Is it a like a stability year in the sense of like we grew a lot and now all we want to do is like repeat what we just did, but it's now not the first time we're doing it like it was this year. Does that make sense? Is it the year where we expand our team? Is it like, what's the overall vision for the year? Where do we see our business going? And then we start to narrow it down to specific projects. We even map it all out, and you guys get a copy of this, just so you know, in lesson 12. And then the difference is that we actually do it with you on the VIP day. It's just, again, it takes all day, so we can't do it in the academy, but we give you the framework for it so that you can do it yourself if you want to. And that absolutely helps too, Jacqueline, because it prevents us from getting distracted during the year. And not that every year goes perfectly by any means, but we can be like, okay, you know what, let's add this to our 2020 list of things that we might want to do. Because what happens is throughout the year, we're like, ooh, what about this? And we could do that and all of that. And then when we do this annual planning, we have this list of things to consider for the coming year. Does that make sense? And again, not all of them get in the next year, but we now have this list of things that throughout the year we've thought were good ideas that we can discuss when we're actually doing like vision work for our business.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm finding like, I feel like I'm somebody who gets wrapped up in like the day-to-day and my to-do lists and things like that. And I don't want to let my to-do list take over my life. Like I still want to be very much connected to why I'm doing this and my vision for my life and the purpose behind it. So
I think another thing you could do, and I would block this off on your calendar, especially with where you're at, Jacqueline, in the sense that like you're getting busier, you're getting more clients, like you're busy, with, your full-time job too, is I would block off like maybe 2 hours a week just for right now to start, where you work on your business. So you're not working on tasks or anything like that, but you're working on bigger picture type things. So maybe you sit there and like for the first 20 minutes, 30 minutes, however long it takes, you're just journaling out or writing out like the vision for your business to get you in that headspace. And then maybe the next 90 minutes is like writing down bigger picture ideas or goals for your business, and this is where I would not edit this list. So it could be things that you're like, yeah, maybe 10 years from now is kind of the thought that comes in your mind. And that's okay. Like you write it down anyway. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I would start doing that, especially with where you're at in your business. I think if I'm being totally honest, I wish I would have done that much sooner, where I actually blocked off time to work on my business versus just on clients or with clients or on the stuff that was needed like immediately to like help the business like function right now. But I didn't know to do that. Now we have like an entire day. So typically, which I need to revamp my calendar pretty badly right now, but it used to be when I was seeing clients, like a lot of clients, I would have Tuesdays. Tuesdays were what I called like in-service days or office hour days. It's kind of like a professor who has like a day where they're just like in their office. But I would have Tuesdays where I would just work on my business. And I would have like a block of time that was like for stuff, like, responding to emails and completing tasks and that kind of thing. But then a big part of the day was just vision work and thinking about goals and how can I move bigger projects forward, that there's no deadline. There's nobody waiting for this. It's something that I want to create and I need time to be able to create.
Okay.
Does that make sense? But it's hard to start with a whole day when you're working full time and clients. So I would start with just a couple hours or even an hour to start. Okay. What you're doing is flexing that muscle or building the habit of blocking that time out. Okay. And then that way, it's kind of like the other thing that I always recommend you guys is when you first start making money in your business, very quickly, as soon as you can, start paying yourself from your business on a set day every single month. And it can be $20. I do not care the amount. I don't care if it's $5. Honestly, if you pay yourself $5 on the first of every month, let's say, or the 15th or something like that, what you want to do is you want to start as quickly as possible, because then it's always easier to change the dollar amount, but the system is in place, the habit is there, the routine is there, and all you got to do is change the dollar amount as you can start pulling more money out of your business. It's harder to like add that in down the road when you've got a bunch more expenses and like obligations, and like the money maybe is a bit more chaotic as far as when it's coming in and when it's going out. So start that early on, because then you can, and we talk about this when we talk more about budgeting and that kind of thing later. We have some budgets for you guys to start, like things that you might want to begin budgeting for early on. So getting a little bit ahead of myself, but that is one tip, that if you're making money, start paying yourself even just a little bit right away. And do it on the set day every month. So you can do it like that. So Jacqueline, I know you get paid bi-weekly probably from teaching, right?
Yep.
So like, even if it was $5 every day, you already get paid from teaching, like that's payday for your household, let's say. Then it's like, I'm paying myself $5 every 2 weeks for my business too. It could be 20, it could be 50, it could be 100, it could be 500, whatever you can pull. But like, I would do something I understand there's a fine balance here, because at first, we're likely reinvesting into our business heavily at first, right? Like we get paid $100 from a client. Well, that $100 was spent 10 times already, is like what we want to do. So even if it's $1, the idea is to put the habit and the routine in place. It's not necessarily about like hurting your business at first by taking too much money out of it.
Right. And Sherry even challenged me to tie some of my personal finance goals to my business goals, so that I would start bringing that income, like putting that income into our personal finances and make an impact in our lives in that way too. So like
I love
our
that.
debt payoff, like due date, which is like coming up and not too long, but like trying to push that forward using my business income, things like that. So, yeah.
So it's kind of connected, that's what I did at first, it was like, what could this business do for my personal life? And like, what could Michael and I enjoy? And now our family, like, how could this make our lives better? And so we started, obviously now our business is our livelihood. Michael doesn't work anymore, and this is our livelihood. So, and that was because I started thinking about it in that way, right? At first it was, if you guys remember, when I first started my business, Michael was working full time, and I was like, I just need to make a little bit to like supplement, because it'll make me feel better. But like, the goal was never that this would be our livelihood. And so it just started by like, well, what if I took this much out and we were able to do this with it? And then what if I took this much out and we could start doing that with it? And then eventually it got to the point where Michael then didn't need to work, and I actually needed his help in the business. And so we were able to make that transition, but it was, a journey. And now, just so you guys can see like how life changes or how things can change. We're budgeters. We're pretty frugal people. We don't need a lot of money. Our personal budget is pretty dialed in. And so my mentor challenged me. She said, what would your business revenue need to be if you and Michael were to pay yourselves $1 million a year from your business? Okay. Which the revenue's not even $1 million. This is big vision work. This is like, if you were to 10x your growth kind of thing, kind of work, right? Which is hard work to do. And I'll tell you, I was not motivated by that at all. I was like, I have no desire. Like, I do not even know what I would do with $1 million a year. Like, I could make a list in 1 year and be like, okay, well, it'd be cool to like buy a cabin or whatever. Like, that's a dream that I have. But then after that, the second year, what would I do? I don't know. Like, that is not motivating to me at all. And I know that might sound crazy, but I just feel like I don't need, Michael and I are just, I would say, simple people in that way. Like, I don't need $1 million a year. Okay. But I will tell you that I had this epiphany after that training, that if I could pay my team members, like, let's say if I found a way, if I had a business where I could pay Jill $1 million a year, now that fires me up. That to me, I'm like, oh, hell yes. I want to make $10 million in my business. No idea how, you guys. I'm totally just spitfiring right now. Make $10 million so that I can pay Jill $1 million. And I don't care what she does. I don't know what she would do. I don't even know if she cares, right? But if I could, now I'm like, okay, now I want to do this. Like that to me. So part of it is like figuring out what excites you in your business. Does that make sense? And what fires you up and what gives you that bigger purpose to your business. And I also have this underlying motivation because I know other coaches look to us to see like what's possible. So part of me is like, well, I want to do it just so I can prove that it's possible for other coaches. You know what I mean? And again, I'm kind of my MO. And if you think about how have you risen to challenges in the past, or how have you been motivated in the past in your life? I have always been the type of person that as soon as someone says you can't do something, I'm like, oh, okay, watch. Like that to me is like just my MO. That is like, I want to prove things wrong. And so because of that, it's like, that is where I get my motivation sometimes. You kind of have to figure out, some people are like, if they're told they can't do something, they're like, oh, bummer. Like I can't do it, and they accept it, and they have to find motivation in another way. So I think it's good to kind of be aware of that. And I will tell you, it's good to be aware of that for your client's sake too, because they likely have their own MO on like what motivates them. Is it an internal compass? Is it to prove some other philosophy wrong? Like, what is it that motivates them? Because if you can gain that awareness, and if you can help them to gain awareness, it will be really motivating for them and like their life in general. Does that make sense?
No, I love that. I'm just thinking, yeah. Like,
I know I totally took that in a whole different direction. I'm really sorry.
Yeah, no. I love it. No, I love it. Do we have time for me to ask my second question? Okay, so it's kind of like along those lines, like where you talked about with the goal planning. So the goal is to, like, this is my last year of teaching. That's the goal, which is a huge goal. And I'm nowhere near like income-wise at all, like revenue-wise at all where I would need to be. But if you were trying to make that shift, and I understand that I might need to, like, there might be a leap in like revenue to replacing my income, but we'll be paid off with debt before I would have to leave my job. So that helps, because our budget is going to be able to be a little bit leaner than where it is now. But what would you be like prioritizing both in your time and in your business spending? If you were if you were doing this all over again, what would you say helps you make that, like, that scale happen as fast as possible? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like, I'm trying to be really focused this year on doing what is going to make the biggest impact now.
It's a good question. Let me think about it. Let
And
me get back to that
like
moment of my life.
And come back to it. Yeah. Like,
and I'm going to think about it as far as like when Michael came on board, because that's more recent for us, because even though it was slightly different, it's similar in the sense that like we had to just take this leap of faith that like that's that stable income that we weren't going to have. And that trust of like, we can keep this going for both of us, but we didn't know for sure. I would say, like, personally, we were as lean as possible in the sense that we felt like it was an investment year into our business. And it wasn't investment necessarily financially. It was investment as far as like, there might be some things we're going to give up personally so that we can have more time and money to focus on the business. So like, and, instead of taking a couple of vacations, maybe that's like not the year where we're going to take any, maybe we're going to do just a weekend away here and there, as opposed to like a week vacation. So that that time is needed. Like, you have to spend the time to like grow and invest and like really gain some momentum. And financially, like, we didn't really want that money to go on travel if we could invest it in the business for a year. Right. So, and one thing that we did, because Carmen was just born at the time, we did not put her in daycare right away. And so a lot of it was like, when I say we went lean personally, it was like, how can we manage a baby, both of us, take turns while working, while making sure that we're not spending a ton on daycare. And I want to say she went to like childcare 2 days a week, but it was like inside someone's home. So it was like $25 a day, or, something, little like that.
yeah.
So it was like 2 days a week versus like all 5. And that, so you're just kind of always playing those games of like time versus money. And let's see, I would say I would be I think for you, when I'm thinking about this, like you're working full time, I think your investment of time is likely going to be like personal time. So it might be that for like this year, you're just trying to get as many clients as possible. So while you might only want to see clients 4 hours a week right now, which is like 1 hour a week after school, 4 days a week kind of thing, it might be that you need to do 2 hours a night after school and then on Saturdays, because the idea is that you want to get as many clients as possible so that when you leave, like those clients, it's going to be easy to manage that number of clients once you leave your full-time job. But for a short period of time, it's going to be really hard because you're kind of doing both, one full-time school and maybe one like almost full-time or like very heavy client load for already having a full-time job. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So how would you, I guess, like, okay, so I'm trying to build up to that kind of a client load where I'm like seeing clients multiple nights a week, not just 1 or 2, like 3 or 4 nights a week if I can, and then also on weekends. How would you, like, I just still feel like that bringing on clients is like a slower process. So is there...
And so this is where if you're, let's say your goal is to see clients 4 nights a week and on Saturdays.
God bless you.
There's usually a second one. Guess not today. If you don't have a client, that time needs to be spent networking or marketing or engaging or on client attraction, right? So this is where it's like, if your goal is to work for 2 hours after school every day, and then on Saturday, it needs to be spent working, whether it's client facing or not. Like eventually, hopefully you get to the point where it's all client facing time, because that's going to make it so much easier to leave. But it's like during that other time, it's, you know, emailing referral partners, it's sending out a newsletter, it's running a promotion, it's doing a Facebook Live, doing a challenge, like all that kind of stuff.
Okay. And that's what I'm doing. I just think I might need to be more strategic and figure out where like online I'm going to get the most bang for my buck with where I'm spending.
Here's what I would love for you to do. So I think it comes down to like time blocking on the weekend for the coming week, right? Okay. So on the weekend before, so right this weekend, plan out what your goal, what's going to happen next week as far as your business time. So I'm going to spend this much time and here's exactly what I'm going to do. And I want you to post that, Jacqueline, in the Facebook group, and we will give you feedback.
Okay.
Because if there's anything on that list where I'm like, I'm not sure I'm seeing the payoff there, I don't know that it's worth it, like I'll tell you.
Okay. So how specific do you want me to be with that? Like
however specific you want to be.
Okay.
Like if you want to like say, you know, here's the 10 things I'm going to plan to do during that time. Or if you want to be like, I'm going to spend 2 hours doing X and 4 hours doing Y or whatever the case may be, it's totally up to you.
Okay.
If you know, this is where I've never asked anyone to do that before, but I think it's going to be super valuable for you. And I invite anybody who wants to do that, you know, to do it as well. So it might be that as when you first share, I have to ask you some questions to gain insights, because I don't really know what I need yet to give you guidance, but.
Okay. Sounds good.
Cool.
Yep.
Yeah. The other thing that like one thing you could do right away, Jacqueline, is like email anybody. Like there's likely people that you came in contact with let's say over 6 months ago. Mm-hmm. So not people in the last 6 months, because you probably have really good follow through and follow up like in recent times, because you're, you know, gaining your experience as a coach. But anything like from early on that like you touched base with, does your school know that you might be leaving? Or is that something that they can know, or you don't want them to know? Or
I guess I don't want them to know right now.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I thought. So just be careful, because what I'm about to tell you is like, be careful of who's on that list, but like sending it out an email saying, you know, my goal is at the end of the school year that like, this might be my last year teaching. This is my true passion. I want to be doing this full time. If you know anybody who like would love blah, 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 and like kind of describe what you do, and, you know, who is experiencing X and wants to be experiencing Y. So like, what's that before and after like, right? Mm-hmm. I hope you will help me spread the word on this, you know, endeavor of mine, or however you want to word that. Again, it's getting some finessing, but, so I think you could email those people, email old contacts, email that kind of thing, and let them know that like at some point I'm going to be doing this full time. Here's the date. And if you know someone, like, I hope you will let them know that like, I'm here to help, and see if that doesn't drum up some business now, as well as like when you leave. People know that this is not just a hobby that you have, right? Like this is a full on like service that you are offering, and it's something that you're going to be doing full time very soon. For some people, that shift in like what role this plays can like helps them to refer and trust you.
Okay. So you think it's important for me to include then? Because I was trying to think of ways just now when you said that, like how I could word it without saying the part about me leaving teaching, you know what I mean? So that part like isn't out there to people I don't necessarily trust, you know, like who might be in my local region sphere, not just people online that I've interacted with, you know what I mean? But
so this is where you might have two emails that go out. You might have one that is like to people that you trust and you're more candid about it. And then you might have one that is very subtle as far as like, I'm reaching back out. I've now been doing this for X number of months and I've helped this many people. And I would love the opportunity to help more people. I find that this is my passion. Like that might be how you word it to those people.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah. Okay.
Joan says, people who move from teaching to real estate do extremely well since they feel a real trust in the former teacher. I'm wondering if the same thing is true with teachers who go into financial coaching. I think that there is like a general spirit about a teacher that like they really just want to educate you, help you. They are there like, and not all teachers, unfortunately, but like a lot of them. And so I think that it's kind of like how when we started and I joked that like people walk up to me in the grocery store and talk to me like, and tell me their life story. Like teachers can get that natural, like, an openness to learn from people because of the teaching sort of spirit, I think. So it's no surprise to me that like Dave Ramsey says like, you know, do you have the
heart of a teacher?
The heart of a teacher, right? Like there is something about that I think is very accurate. So
I was actually directing that to Jacqueline because it's such an amazing thing with people who are teachers who go into real estate because people do have a trust in the teacher, and all of a sudden all their parents end up using the former teacher as their realtor. And I'm wondering if the same thing is true in this case. That could be a real benefit for you.
Yeah.
And I think it will be like once you leave and you're able to tell them, Jacqueline, that I'm leaving and here's why. Like, and I would, once you're in a position where you can share that publicly, you know, because the administrators know that it's been announced, like, you know, you'll be treated professionally and fairly and all of that. Like before you leave, like I would share, here's why I'm leaving. Not because I don't love teaching, because I do, but I have found that I love teaching financial concepts to people and empowering people financially. And so I'm going to be, you know, teaching in a different avenue under my own business sort of thing.
Right. Yeah. Right. Oh, I love that. I love how you just said that.
Good. Okay. This is recorded, so you can come back and watch it. Because if you were to ask me to repeat it right now, I couldn't. So
it's so funny that you said that, because when I went to a counselor at my church a few years ago, she said to me, I think it's time for you to explore ways of using your teaching degree in a different avenue. Like, I think it's time for you to leave public ed. Isn't that funny that you just said that?
And I would just, this is where when I left corporate America, I did not say like, I hate the company, I'm burnt out, it's been terrible, because while there were certainly very hard aspects of being in corporate America and I was burnt out, there were parts of it that like gave me the skills to be an entrepreneur. And I appreciate that part of my journey for what it gave me and the gift that it was for as long as it was. It was just that chapter in my life was coming to a close, but I chose to look back on it for all the gifts that it gave me, not all of the headaches that it also included. Yeah. And so, and I believe that teaching for you is the exact same thing. Like it is. The other thing I want to say, and then we're going to wrap up, is like Jacqueline, you're going to go into a very challenging season. It's going to be hard. You're going to be working your tail off. Okay. So, and I don't want to downplay that. I don't want it to be as if like, oh, but it's for a purpose, so it'll be fine. No, there will be days where you're like, what the hell am I doing this for? Right. Like there will be hard days.
I've had lots of those days already.
Okay, good. So you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. I think about if you ever read articles or if you've ever had a conversation with like an older couple, right? So they're like retired now. And like, I think about my grandparents and they're sharing stories from like their initial marriage and how they met in their early life. When they talk about hard times of their life, where maybe they had a 1-bedroom home and they had to do all the repairs themselves or something like that, when they describe it with fondness and such appreciation and love, because what they're remembering how hard it was, but they're remembering it for what it did for them from like a work ethic standpoint, and how, you know, much they grew and how they learned to like lean on each other. And like, but you know, when you're in it, you don't know any of that. You are not aware of it necessarily, unless you're just reminding yourself, you're like, I'm faking it till I make it kind of thing, right? But so try to remember that as you're going through it, it's very hard, but it will also be a time of your life where you look back and you're like, I am so proud of that time of my life, right? And I think about it so fondly. I think about like when Michael first joined Physical Fitness, it was hard, you guys. Like, you know, in our marriage, we are a partnership and a true 50-50, but the business was my baby and I was the sole decision maker, and it was mine for a very long time before he came on board. So now we're trying to combine, well, now it's his too, but we're 50-50 in marriage. Do we need to be 50-50 in the business, or like who's the ultimate decision maker, right? And how do you have a dynamic in your relationship in one part of your life, but a different dynamic in another part of your life? And I still look back on it and I'm like, but God dang it, we did it. And we figured it out, and we are stronger now. Our communication is better now because of it and all that. But at the time, there were definitely some like all out, like tough discussions, AKA fights. Okay. Like big time debates and arguments and all of that. But I now look back on it with fondness. So that's, try to keep that perspective, Jacqueline, that like, and for all of you, like, you're going to look back on this time of your life where you worked really, really hard for these 12 weeks in the academy. And you're going to look back and be like, but I did it. And I know that I can show up. Think about it. This does not compare, and I do not want to downplay like military, but like when they go to boot camp, right? The purpose of boot camp is, yes, it's physically challenging, but one of the biggest takeaways from something like boot camp is that they realize that they are mentally capable and that they can get through anything. They're tough, like they have grit after that, right? And they believe that they can overcome like really big challenges. So when you overcome those challenges, we experience that same thing in life, is like, we now believe that we can do it. We're now capable, like we have more trust in ourselves. Does that sound fair?
Yeah.
Okay, I have to wrap up because I have to be someplace in 14 minutes.
Oh,
So it was wonderful chatting with you guys this morning. Please post anything in the Facebook group, post your exercises, post your handouts that we've been talking about trying to create. I know Cynthia said that she was going to work through some with her husband. I love that idea. If you've got somebody that can be your guinea pig on some of these exercises, like your super buddy, by all means do that. I think it's a great idea, and we will be around this weekend to give you guys feedback. Okay? Have a wonderful weekend, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye.
Take care, guys.
bye.